all, the review petitions that were filed in the Supreme Court have now been dismissed, including all telecom companies and their review petitions. A breaking story out there on your screen, as you can see. It's clearly something that was being expected at the moment, and now it's finally through. Supriya is joining us live right now. Supriya, what are you hearing, and what is the impact of this immediately?
Tell you what we're picking up right now, and of course these are flashes on your screen as we speak. 7 telcos had applied for a review of the 122 telecom licenses that were cancelled, and all of them have been dismissed. The only respite perhaps is for the Government of India and the Union of India, but for very different reasons, because they had never really challenged the Supreme Court verdict. They wanted a clarification. They wanted clarification on the first come first serve policy, and they also wanted clarification on what happens to the first come first serve policy, and what will they do with the auction. They have very categorically said they cannot carry on auctions in the 4-month time period that has been given by the Supreme Court. It can happen only in about 400 days. So these are clarifications that the Government of India had asked for, and that is the only plea that doesn't seem to have been dismissed. But 7 other pleas of telcos and 1 plea of Andi Muthu Raja seems to have been dismissed by the court. They do not find any favor on why should they be losing any more time off the court on any of these pleas, considering the decision to cancel 122 telecom licenses of 11 telcos was really unanimous between Justice Singhvi and of course Justice Ganguly, who's now retired.
This was possibly the last legal recourse these telecom companies had, wasn't it? So in this scenario, do they have much option left with this kind of a verdict?
No, not really. I mean, as far as global telcos are concerned, perhaps yes. People like a Telenor, people like a Systema, or even Etisalat. Some of these companies have bilateral investment treaty with India, and that can be revoked. But remember what happens if those treaties are revoked. It will they can only claim damages. They cannot restore their telecom licenses. So as far as telecom licenses are concerned, there is no respite for any of these telcos that cannot be restored. They can perhaps only claim damages. They can only they can claim damages on investments made in India because there are bilateral treaties. They can go in for arbitration. They can revoke invoke some of those clauses. But as far as local telcos are concerned, like a Tata Tele or like an Idea, the road for them is perhaps this is it. This is the end of the road as far as 2G telecom licenses was concerned. But any amount of litigation, even by the global telcos through the arbitration route, cannot restore telecom licenses, and that's an important clarification we'd like to bring to our viewers here. On the Indian soil, this was the last chance for anything to have happened to telecom licenses, and looks like nothing's going to happen just yet.
Supriya, the point is that a large number of companies were still wondering whether they would want to go back into the auctioning again for the licenses that they may get again or may not, depending on the pricing. So many of them don't have a choice because, one, domestically they don't have legal recourse, or if they still want to stay in the sector, then they are forced to pay a lot more money when the auctions do happen.
Oh yes, but I mean, the only respite perhaps, and I'm going to be a contrarian here, the only respite that's coming from the Supreme Court judgment is that at least the uncertainty is over. At least the auction process can begin. Because remember, if these pleas were admitted, if these if 2G petition pleas were admitted, then the auction process couldn't have begun. So at least the auction process could have begun. There is no clarity whatsoever on how much time will those auctions take. And of course, our colleagues who cover that sector particularly well will just give us those details. But the fact is that the government has put up its hand and said they cannot complete auctions in less than 400 days. They take about 600 days to complete the 3G auctions. Right now, what we make of this is that the auction process will be very, very aggressive, because for the new entrants who've lost licenses to survive in the sector, they will have to pay a lot more. Yes.